thing I want to stress when talking about this is the circle of fifths is just a reference table. It will not on its own make you a better musician by understanding it. But it is helpful for us to memorize certain things we'll need to know as musicians. I compare it to the periodic table of elements in chemistry. It's a huge list of elements you use when you're learning chemistry, and it tells you like atomic numbers and a bunch of other things that are used. That is what the circle of fifths is to music theory. Now let's learn about what we can do with it. So the first thing I want to talk about is this inner circle right here. It has letters like C, G, D, A, and so on. We will use those letters to help know what key we're in. So the big letter in the middle outer part of the circle, that is the key we're in, the major key. That is super helpful because we will learn more about what is involved with the major key. So now that we know what the major key is we're in is, let's look at the other parts. So if you go to that inner circle in the circle of fifths, that shows which relative minors are with the key. So on the section of C, underneath it there's an A, and that means the relative minor for C is A. The only difference between major and minor keys is where the note starts. So we had our C major scale, which started on C on the piano and went to C, only playing white keys. If you don't know that, go back and watch our major scale video. We'll put a card right up here. The only difference is for a minor key is instead of starting on C, we're going to start on the relative minor, which in this case is A. So we'd start on A and play all the white keys till the next A an octave higher. So that's all a minor key is. There's a few more things about chords that can change within minor keys, but those are the main differences. The next thing we're going to look at is outside of the circle, we have the key signatures. Now this is one of the most useful things for starting out with the circle of fifths. So we're going to stay on C, and it says there's no sharps or flats on the circle, which is great because we know it's all the white keys. So now let's go to the key of G. If you notice, there's one sharp in that key. That's a really interesting thing about the circle of fifths. As you go up by a fifth, one sharp gets added every key you go up until you get to the flat keys. If you go the other way, one flat gets added. So if you go from C to F, there's one flat, then F to B flat, there's another flat. This works both ways. What's really helpful, because this tool is to help us memorize these key signatures, is there's a certain order that the sharps get added in, and we'll put that below. So the first sharp that gets added is F, the second sharp that gets added is C, the third sharp that gets added is G, the fourth sharp that gets added is D, the fifth sharp that gets added is A sharp, the sixth sharp that gets added is E sharp, and then the last sharp that gets added is B sharp. What's helpful, let's go back to C, and then we're going to go the other way around the circle of fourths. In this side, you add flats. So you go from C to F. The first flat you add is backwards. So the first flat you add is B. The second flat you add is E. The third flat you add is A. The fourth flat you add is D. The fifth flat you add is G. The sixth flat you add is C, and the seventh flat you add is F. So this helps us find all the flats and sharps. We can just add them by going around the circle of fifths. These memorization tools are helpful. You're going to want to actually memorize your key signatures because you won't be able to use these tools in real time while playing. But these devices you can use to learn them faster. So when you practice your scales, you'll just know them because you're like, oh, I have to add this sharp to this key. And that's all the circle of fifths is showing. So let's go to the key of E, and we're going to look at it. So in the key of E, it shows that or in the key of E on the outer circle. On the inner circle, it'll say C sharp, and that's our relative minor. And then outside of the circle, we have 4 sharps, and that's F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and D sharp. And that shows up in the order that we did them before. Those are the main functions of the circle of fifths, but there's a couple other cool things I want to tell you about. If you're interested in jazz music, one of the most common chord progressions is a 2-5-1 chord progression. And if you're not sure what that means, we'll learn more about chords in a future video. So if you take the 2, which would be D, because it's the second note we played, and you put a chord to that, which would be a D minor. You can play a D minor. That would be your 2 chord. And if you played a G major, that would be your 5 chord, because G is the 5th note in the C scale. And then if you played a C, that would be your 1 chord. What's helpful about the circle of fifths, if you go to the D note on there, and then you go backwards 1, so you go D, which is your 2 chord, backwards 1 to G on the circle of fifths, that's your 5 chord, and then backwards again to C. So now the circle of fifths shows all the 2-5-1 progressions in order so you can memorize them quickly. That's the last little nugget. If that made sense to you, please let us know. And if you have any more questions about the circle of fifths, we'd love to help you out.